encouraged atheists in Great Britain to go to church last Christmas?
Good question. We go straight into the deeps. Well, obviously Britain, where I'm from, and Europe more generally, the situation with religion is different from the situation you have here. I mean, there are all sorts of differences, all sorts of similarities, but we don't have in Britain a kind of any form of strong Christianity that I see as being any threat in the public sphere. I mean, our bishops are all basically on the verge of atheism, as far as I can see. If you get a bishop in Britain, I mean, the hardest thing to do for them is to affirm what was their creed. You know, it's filled with sort of God, as it were. You know, so we have the sort of doubting bishop as a sort of perpetual part of the comedy of British life. And so we don't have that assertive form of religion which can still exist here, and in certain states is very strong. And I think it's partly, I write a bit about this quite a bit in this recent book. I think that we are in a very strange place in Europe, in Britain, in our relation to faith. And for all sorts of reasons, of which we can get into, we are in this situation that a wonderful French philosopher called Chantal del Sol described as being in the situation that Icarus would have been in if he'd survived the fall. That is that by the time that the Cold War finishes in Europe, we've dreamed all of these religious dreams and they've all crashed. We've dreamed all of these political dreams, including two big ones in the 20th century that turned out to be global nightmares. So that by the time the last of those falls, we are on the ground, wounded, burnt, singed, badly bruised, and rather amazed to find that we're still here with this big question that then comes up, which is, what do we do? And again, I mean, this doesn't apply in quite the same way in this country as I see it.
Which I think may be one of the reasons why this kind of question goes up, but I want to let you get through it.
But I suppose one of the things I feel, and I know a lot of people now in Europe from the political left, right, center ground, atheists, non-atheists, and so on, who are starting to worry. And I suppose the worry, for me, condenses into this, which is the increasing fear that the Enlightenment didn't go very deep or very wide or very far, and that it turns out not to be cherished by all that many people.
You know, what Douglas seems to be implying here from the question that Matt Dillahunty asked him initially was he was telling atheists to go to church and whatever, is that the analogy he uses with the death of Icarus is that that's what's happening with religion, especially Christianity and then Judaism in Western Europe. Look at what's happening in France, becoming more and more secular. Britain, the same thing. As he mentioned, that the bishops, the archdiocese, the Church of England has literally, I mean, they don't stand up for anything. They're all involved in this social justice, virtue signaling, going along with the crowd. Nobody seems to be willing to stand up. And as he's talking about the differences between Christianity and religion in Europe versus in America, over here you see the same thing. Especially, look at what's happening within the Catholic Church. How many churches within the Catholic faith you see, heading towards the same type of thing: virtue signaling, social justice. Anything and everything should be. Abortion is perfectly fine. All of the different, whatever you want to say about it. Transgenderism is okay. Gay marriage is fine. I mean, all these things that you would find in traditional church teachings that they would be normally against. And they don't want to speak out. They actually speak out against even biblical teaching, Judaic teaching, the Old Testament, the New Testament. You see that. Now, what's different is that when Douglas alluded to the fact in some states, it's very strong. Yes, among the evangelicals, the Hispanic, Latinos, Christianity, Catholicism is very, very strong. You see in the Jewish faith over here is dissipating, except for just a few, minorities within the Jewish faith. But where are you seeing this type of thing within religious is not dissipating, it is not being reduced, is within the Islamic faith, within the Hindu faith or Buddhism. I mean, it's just very strong there in their faith. In terms of that, there's no erosion. Sure, you've got your liberal component, and then you've got your component that's going to be a little bit more conservative. But the most part, that's not. And the same thing is happening with look at the people that are coming from Africa, and their religious faith strong. Now, there are some Western European countries like Poland and Czechoslovakia and others, where when they do migrate over to, the other European countries, into England and France and Italy and whatever, they do bring a sense of strong faith with them, Christian faith, Eastern Orthodox, and whatever. But again, you see it within, the people that are coming from India, bringing a strong Hindu faith into Western Europe. Those that are Muslim bringing a strong Muslim faith into Western Europe. And so this is what's happening over here. As Christianity starts to dissipate, and like I said, it's for just to sort of get watered down. It is being overtaken just in terms of national, in terms of support within the community. You don't see that same type. Now remember, that's only one or two first generation coming over from people bringing over different faiths and cultures. So let's see what happens. 3-4 generations down the road. Will it be just as strong with the other faiths that are, coming into Western Europe? Anyways, let's get back to the discussion and the debate with Matt and Douglas. We'll go to that right now. And this is what we have on tap for you today, folks. You're watching the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show. I'm your host, Dr. Nasir, where I give you my political prescription from my political perspective. What happens when you got Douglas Murray, Matt Dillahunty talking about where everything clashes: culture, religion, atheism, agnosticism, social media, all these things coming together. Let's get to more of the debate right now.
Come down the road might be so much worse. I put it no stronger for now than the nervousness. And since this is a situation we're in, I'm an atheist, I have been for many years. I don't believe in the little claims of the Bible or anything else. But I do recognize something which in Europe, at any rate, I see and I'm concerned about, which is what I regard as a vacuum. And one of the only interim answers I've been able to put forward is to say, we can accept the fact that we're atheists, we can accept the fact that we don't believe in literal truth and so on, and yet have to find a way to remind ourselves and each other of how we got to where we are. Because there's a whole set of things which I and others start to worry about. And one of the few ways I've found to try to explain this is to say that includes in engaging in parts of your past which you no longer believe in, at the very least to know how you got to where you are now. So I didn't say in that piece that people should go to church and praise the risen Lord, but to say to them, at least engage in the thing that got you to the place you are now, and know how it happened. Let me put it another way very quickly. One of the most striking things, there's a British rabbi called Jonathan Sachs, who has some position here in New York as well. Some years ago I said to him, a slightly impertinent question, but I said, Rabbi Sachs, I know quite a lot of your congregation in London, and how can I put this, but they all seem to be atheists, or at least a lot of them. And without missing a beat, he said, oh, most of them, I'd have thought. And I said, you could see I was sort of slightly thrown, and I said, well, what do you take from that? And he replied rabbinically with a non-answer. He said, this year, 98% of British Jews will be celebrating the holidays. And this is just an interesting way through a bit of this, it seems to me. Accepting the realities of where we are, but not casting people into it, particularly the people you and I both know and have come across, who find the position, once they arrive there, of atheism to be a very lonely place.
So Douglas had his way of putting it, that when he was talking about that rabbi, I think it was Jonathan Sachs, he asked a question about in terms of religiosity. And he was saying, well, at least 98% of them are going to be celebrating the Jewish holidays. You know, that's good enough for him, that the rest of the time they can be atheist or agnostic, but at least during the times of the holidays, at least they'll be celebrating. So that's sort of like, you know, the Sunday Christian, right? Going to church. He's there for church on Sundays, and that's the day of religion for him. But then the other 6 days, it's whatever. Or the same Jewish person going on Saturday, the Saturday Jewish person, or the Muslim person who just goes to prayers on Friday and the rest of the 6 days, you know, nothing. At least you have the semblance that they're celebrating a little bit of something. So it's sort of, you know, that's what Douglas is intimating, that at least for people to go back to at least see where is it that, you know, the society or other things, you know, sort of came from, to contemplate on that, whether or not you believe or not. Now, I happen to think a little differently, that, you know, not being atheist or whatever, that, you know, you have to, you know, you've got to find some semblance of religion, you know, in your life. And it just can't be something that's just there for a day, or just for a holiday, or just for a prayer, or just for, you know, to go there and sit down someplace and worship, you know, once or twice. It's got to be more than that. It just can't be just lip service. You've got to be doing something, believing in something, standing for something. That's what it's all about. Anyways, we appreciate you taking the time to watch, folks. You've been watching the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show. I've been your host. My name is Dr. Nasir. If you haven't done so already, we'd love for you to subscribe to the channel, like, share, and follow us. You all know what to do. Check out our other video links above and below. Leave a comment. Share what you want to share with us. We'd really appreciate it. I'll leave with my final thought, which is, when you're right, you're right. And when you're left, you're wrong. Until next time, folks, take care and stay safe.